Hello there, beautiful friends from all around the world. I'll be your host, Blackenfist, and it just happens to be this very year that this is Dragon Ball's 30-year anniversary. It has been 30 years since the Dragon Ball manga has first come out. Now, unfortunately, it's not 30 years to the day. To the day would have been around last week. And quite honestly, I was going to release this video um, probably around last week, but I had some technical difficulties. But I still want but really, the real reason I'm doing this video is not only just because it's the 30-year anniversary of Dragon Ball. Also, it's because I saw a great video by MistaraeFusion talking about his fandom and his nostalgia trip and how he got into this series. And I quite enjoyed that video, MistaraeFusion. If you're watching this, you did a good job. You've kind of inspired me to do my own version of that. So this is what I'm here to do. I'm going to here talking about my trip down memory lane, where I discuss how I got into the series and my experiences, and how my fandom has kind of changed over the years since I first saw it way back on Toonami, almost a decade ago. Yeah, pretty much a decade ago, a little bit more than a decade. So. That's also quite a while. I also would want to recommend, to check out MistaraeFusion's channel. MistaraeFusion does excellent Dragon Ball content. He's doing a Dragon Ball retrospective called the Dragon Ball Dissection, which is an excellent series. And if you really want to get a good retrospective on Dragon Ball, then I can't recommend anyone else but him. The link will be in the description, his channel and the Dragon Ball Dissection. So if you haven't watched it, be sure to check it out. It's pretty good stuff. But anyway, my history with the fandom. This goes way back. I remember the first time I ever saw Dragon Ball Z was when, of course, it was on Toonami already. I didn't run into the series before it aired on American television. There's real old school fans that saw Dragon Ball Z because they had fan subs and VHS tapes that were taped off for either from a Japanese airing or probably an airing in Hawaii or something like that. I never got into the series like that. I never was one of those really old school fans. I'm kind of I'm just kind of the fan that got into it when everyone else did when it aired on Toonami. And the first time I saw Dragon Ball Z was season 3, when the Ocean dub had already aired, and Funimation did their in-house cast and changed the voices up. So I didn't even experience the Ocean dub. The first thing I saw was when I was at a babysitter's house, and the kids there were watching Dragon Ball Z. I remember, and it was the episode where Goku transforms into a Super Saiyan. In that episode, the two things I remember vividly is Piccolo getting beamed through the chest by Frieza, and of course Goku turning into a Super Saiyan. Now, of course, I didn't know what was going on. I mean, I was confused. I was asking, who the hell is that? I thought Piccolo looked like a monster, so I thought he was a bad guy. I really didn't have anything. I really didn't know anything, and quite honestly, after I saw that, it was just oh, well, that was weird, and I just moved on. I really didn't get into it, but that was really the first time I saw it. The second time I would see Dragon Ball Z is really when I think I got into it. The second time I saw Dragon Ball Z ever was during the Garlic Jr. saga. Around that time, Cartoon Network was doing an entire marathon of the Garlic Jr. saga because I think they just got out and they were running it all on. And I happened to be a viewer of Cartoon Network at the time. So because I was watching Cartoon Network, when I tuned into it, it was this weird show I never saw before. And I was like, oh, well, eventually I think I'll just wait. I'll just wait for it to be finished. And, I'll watch something else. But it didn't, and it didn't. And there was another episode, and I just realized, oh, well, this is a marathon. So I guess I'll just have watched this. And that Garlic Jr. saga was really the beginning, because unlike when I saw it before, it was just a weird curiosity and I really didn't bother to see it anymore. But because I was kind of forced to watch it, I wanted to watch TV, but there was nothing else on TV at the time, or at least I didn't bother to check. So I was like, I'll just watch this. And I remember as the marathon was going on, I slowly and gradually was getting into it, was getting into the drama of Garlic Jr. and them fighting the Spice Boys and them beating the Spice Boys and then Garlic Jr. transforming. I was slowly getting into the drama, and it was building and building. And I know some people are not very fond of the Garlic Jr. saga. I am, even to this day, because of that, because of the experience I had. And I just remember, like, the climax of when Garlic Jr. opens up the dead zone and Gohan's protecting everyone, preventing them from getting sucked in. And that's really the first time I was like, oh wow, that's a cool guy right there, Gohan. And I really think that's what really got me into Gohan being a good, my favorite character eventually, is that scene when Gohan's like preventing everyone from getting into the dead zone, and Garlic Jr. like gets sucked in there. But after watching that whole marathon, I was quite literally, I said, you know what, I want to see this show again. So eventually I found out it comes on at this time. So from then you could say I was a fan. I was watching DBZ every single day. It was probably one of my favorite shows at the time. But the other memory I do remember of watching DBZ on Toonami on weekdays is, of course, when Gohan transformed Super Saiyan 2. When that happened, I remember that vividly more than a lot of other things. When that happened, it was one of those things where, like, it just blew your mind. It was like, wow. But I remember that when it happened, I remember just saying, well, Gohan's definitely my favorite character, and this is my favorite show of all time. And I don't know how long ago that must have been. I must have said that in like 2001 or 2. No later than 3. It must have been 2. And quite honestly, almost pretty much a decade later, still kind of true. Those two statements are still true. They still hold true. So, from then on, I was into Dragon Ball Z. I saw the Buu saga, and I saw it all the way till it aired all the way, and I saw a couple of the reruns as well. But the thing is, up until the point that Dragon Ball Z ended, I never actually saw all of the episodes because, of course, I saw it on TV. I wasn't able to catch all the showings, and of course, I kind of missed early parts of the Frieza saga. In fact, I missed large portions of the Frieza saga. I missed a little, some stuff with the Cell saga and some stuff with the Buu saga. But I watched most of the Cell and most of the Buu. I didn't watch any of the early Saiyan or Frieza saga at all. That I really wouldn't watch until much later, until the internet, which is kind of what happened. Like, because there was a couple years there between the years of 2004 and around 2004 and through 2007 that I really didn't see DBZ at all, and it was still my favorite show through all those years. But it's just I haven't seen it, so it was kind of hard to keep it up. That was until, of course, YouTube, and I found out, well, you can watch stuff on here for free, and I went back and I watched large portions of DBZ stuff that I haven't seen before, and of course that reminded me, like, well, this is the reason why this is my favorite show. I really enjoyed this show. I remember that pretty good, that when I was watching DBZ again for the first time in a couple years, I think it was the first time in 3 years, I remember saying, well, I've always said this was my favorite show, but 3 years is kind of a long time to not see something. So when I went back and saw it, I was like, you know what? I remember why this was my favorite show. But around that time, the Orange Bricks came out, and it just happened to be that also around that time, I kind of wanted to start owning all the episodes. I was on a mission to see every episode and also own them all. But the thing is that if you guys don't remember, if you wanted to buy Dragon Ball Z, or this was pretty much for any anime, you had to buy like these single DVD things that had like 3 or 4 episodes at a time. And there was no way that was gonna happen, and because they were like for $20 or $25, pretty expensive. So there was no way that was gonna happen. I didn't have enough money for that. So I thought, well, this is gonna be really hard. I might not, get through with collecting all these. But it was also around that time that the Orange Bricks was announced, which was perfect timing. Because, I was like, you know what? I was looking into getting the series. The Orange Bricks was announced. And although, yes, the Orange Bricks had problems with their colors and it was cropped, quite honestly, I didn't care. Even when I learned about all that stuff later on, I didn't care because it was really the only way for me to collect Dragon Ball Z, which was really the only way I could really own all this stuff. And also, keep in mind, when I first saw the Orange Bricks, that was kind of the first time I was actually seeing the Saiyan stuff. I mean, I had seen some of the Saiyan stuff, like snippets of the Saiyan stuff before, but I never had seen all those episodes, especially because the Ocean Dub had already cut a lot of the episodes, cut the episodes. If you guys don't know, the Ocean Dub cut the original 64 episodes or so. The original 64 episodes, I might be getting these numbers wrong. They cut the original 64 episodes into 53 episodes. So that was really the first time I was watching, first of all of it uncut. That was the first time I was seeing Dragon Ball Z uncut, and it was the first time I was seeing the Saiyan Saga for the first time, which, I mean, at the time, it completely made up for all the faults of the Orange Bricks in my mind, because this is stuff that I always wanted to see before, and I get to see it for the first time. So, of course, I fell in love with watching all this stuff. I couldn't believe I could just watch Dragon Ball Z whenever I wanted, and of course, I collected all the Orange Bricks to the day, and I also collected all the Blue Bricks and GT eventually in the movies as well, because I also hadn't watched all the movies. I could only catch them when they aired on Toonami, and I kind of missed them when they did air, because sometimes they would only air like once. You could be lucky, and I know they aired History of Trunks several times, but they only aired like movies like Fusion Reborn and Wrath of the Dragon like once or twice, and on Toonami. So collecting all the movies was kind of the only way. The first time I really watched them all, and I mean, I could have watched the movies online, which I was tempted to, but the reason I didn't want to watch the movies online was because, first of all, if you guys don't remember back then, if you wanted to watch stuff on YouTube, for instance, anime on YouTube, the quality was pretty crappy. Even when I was watching DBZ, the quality of the videos was like, what's the lowest resolution? Like 740p or something? I mean, not 740, 240p or something like that. Like, it was really pixelated and the audio was horrible, but it was all we had. If you could find a video, I remember, if you could find a video that looked as good as something that was like in 360p or something like that, that was like good quality. That was considered high quality back then. But and I kind of didn't want to, watch those movies for the first time in that abysmal condition. So that's why I waited for the DVD sets. But around this time is when I actually started to find the Dragon Ball fandom online. And this is really when I started to learn a lot of things as well. Like, a lot of my misconceptions from the past started to disappear. I remember thinking all sorts of crazy things. That's one part of the video where I could really relate to MistaraeFusion. I remember thinking that Gogeta, when I first saw him, was actually like Gotenks from the future. I remember thinking Super Saiyan 3 is Super Saiyan 4 for some reason. I don't know why. It was a lot of misconceptions back then, because even though this stuff was coming out in America, because it had already been released, all of it had already been released in Japan, of course all this stuff was floating around the internet and we had no idea what it was. So when we looked at it, I mean, we had wild conceptions about what that stuff could have been, most of which was wrong. But it was around that 2007, 8, 9 when I started finding all the online sites, which is way later on. than when these sites actually began in the 90s. But that's kind of when I started to really find a lot of stuff, and I started finding a lot of more accurate information. And that's really where my knowledge of Dragon Ball really did, you could say, expand. Besides, actually, outside of really watching the series, so that whole era right there is really when I kind of started to find sites like Kazenshu and, you know, Dial Dragon Ball and stuff like that, and, you know, newer sites, not like the older sites. Well, Kazenshu is pretty old; it's been around for a long time, but you know, and quite honestly, that all just really, my whole fandom online, it just kind of ended up on me just uploading videos. As you know, uploading videos wasn't. I didn't upload Dragon Ball videos right away. The first videos that I ever did was about Toonami. As many people that look back will know, that was really mainly, besides AMVs, of course. I did a couple AMVs that were terrible, but Toonami was really the first stuff I started uploading. And when the Toonami, when Toonami finally came back and everything, I kind of, it was just natural. I wanted to upload more videos, but what to upload them of? Well, I was a huge Dragon Ball fan. I mean, I was very knowledgeable about Dragon Ball. I really, really liked the series, so I said, heck, why not? Uploading videos about Dragon Ball is like the next logical conclusion, which is why I did it. So that's kind of what happened with the whole thing, and I just happened to upload some Dragon Ball videos, and people happened to like them, and the rest is history, you could say. I can definitely say that my story probably is not as interesting as MistaraeFusion, because MistaraeFusion is part of that whole group of fans that were into the whole series before, like, the big American explosion, you could say. I was part of the American... Well, actually, I'm not even part of the explosion, because I'm post-explosion, because I got into the series really in the Garlic Jr. and Cell sagas when that was airing in U.S., So, I mean, the explosion happened around the Frieza saga, I would say, around 1999, 2000. I really didn't get into it until like 2001 or 2002. So, I was post-explosion. You could say that. I was post-explosion. So, that's kind of my story. I hope that you have found that interesting. Maybe some of you guys can share some of your stories about how you got into DBZ. I remember that's why I do like Toonami a lot, by the way. That's why I did so many Toonami videos in the beginning, because Toonami's always gonna hold a place in my fandom, because it was an awesome time when you could just turn on your TV every single day and just tune in to Dragon Ball Z. That was really something. I really didn't get it. One thing that I could say is that this video is getting long enough, but I didn't even get into like the whole parts where I transitioned from like getting into the Japanese dub as things, because that's a whole other story about me transitioning from like Bruce Falconer to Shinsei Kinkuchi, the voices. So that was a whole ordeal on itself, but maybe I'll tell you that story some other time. But anyway, guys, this has just been a video. Hopefully I didn't ramble too much. I really didn't plan out what I was gonna say, so hopefully this is at least watchable, but hopefully you guys enjoyed my story. But I'm Blackenfist, guys, and as always, I'm out, man.